let's make Ukraine surrender. In fact, that's what we hear from Trump's administration. Europe should become not just a trusty shoulder of a friend to Ukrainians, but also a kind of industrial rear for Ukraine. Unpunished evil always comes back twice as strong. The problem is we have a neighbor who wants us to be dead.
Hello, I'm Jenny Klochko. You're watching my podcast, the platform for guest stories beyond your daily newsfeed. So this is the third anniversary of full-scale invasion in Ukraine. Russia invaded, doing lots of atrocities, and I would like us to look from the journalistic point, from the war reporters, the price reporters pay, the coverage they do, and how does it feel to be injured and almost dying for work you are doing. So today I introduce you the legendary guest. He's the number one of war reporters from Ukraine, basically the person covering since I remember television. It's not that old, don't worry. It's just since I was a student, he was giving me inspiration with his reports from Afghanistan, Iraq. Being honest, our guest covered conflicts in Macedonia, Ivory Coast, Nepal, Sri Lanka, South Ossetia, Kashmir, Liberia, Burundi, Colombia, and many more countries. Not everything mentioned on the media online. And he also makes award-winning documentaries, best-selling books, 5 so far, more to come, I'm sure. So I introduce you, Andriy Tsaplienko. Andriy, thank you for finding time talking to me today. How are you?
Thank you, Jean. This is an honor and a privilege for me to talk to you today. Thank you.
You are not in Ukraine. Where you are, and what are you doing there?
So exactly at this very moment, we are in Bucharest. We participate. We've just participated just recently in the conference organized by Ukrainian embassy. The conference with diplomats, military attaché, public, leaders of opinions of 25 countries here in Bucharest, and here we presented our film Absolute Evil, focused on Russian war crimes committed by a Russian military. And also, I was not alone here. We came here together with the Ukrainian volunteer fighters, and then the warrant officer of Ukrainian armed forces, Gennady Kharchenko, who was imprisoned for more than 2 years, exactly for 2.5 years in Russian prisoners of war camps. And actually, he is with me. He is here. So, yeah, good to see you.
Well,
And so it was a very huge impact, as far as I understand, especially for international diplomatic community here in Bucharest, to show the level, the scale of Russian war crimes committed in Ukraine.
I just explained the viewers. We mentioned the film Pure Evil, made by Andriy Tsaplienko, in my interview with Evgenia Gabchinska, Ukraine, the most popular artist. And also, I will leave the link to this film in the description under this video, and to interview with Jenny as well. Andriy, why do you think the diplomats should watch it? I still can't comprehend after I watched it. I still can't believe after everything they've done. And do you think people tempted to sort of forget and their memory is getting short?
I think this is obvious thing for any human being, to forget the things which are not convenient to remind. And the war is of course, this is a bad memory, and this is a bad information, and people normally don't want to think about war in other countries because it's not convenient, and it affects their ordinary lives. And I think there is a term existed in media, especially called war fatigue, which means uh, sometimes people exhausted of the information about Ukrainian war, and that's true. But from the other hand, if people forget about Ukrainian war, uh, it means that the war could come to their countries as well, because Putin does not conduct the war against Ukraine only. He conducts a war against all democratic countries, and we are the first. We are the first in a row, but there are second, of course. I mean, Baltic countries. I mean, East European countries. And if we don't stop Putin in Ukraine, uh, the war will come to their homeland. So that's why I feel a kind of, obligation to talk about the war, to tell about the war, to remind people what war is, and to remind people that Russia is a real criminal, and moreover, classic fascist and Nazist state that wants to affect all the democratic system. That's why we're here, and we have tons of evidences about Russian war crimes. So we mentioned in our film that up to 2023, there were 82,000 cases of Russian war crimes investigated by Ukrainian law enforcement agencies. Now this figure has been doubled. So now our law enforcement agencies investigate 150,000 cases of Russian war crimes. And I'm talking about the diversity of the crimes, from looting, from burning, civilian houses, to the intentional killing of Ukrainian prisoners of war. This is a terrible thing. This is what we witness on a on everyday basis. I mean, we witness how Russians give the orders to kill Ukrainian prisoners of war, and uh, to publish these videos while they kill Ukrainians, to publish these videos in social networks. This is not just the orders themselves. This is a policy of Russia to scare their own people, and also to scare the world. To save the world, we do it because we can do it.
Do you have the feedback you're hoping for? And do you see like these people are more enthusiastic about supporting Ukraine, helping Ukraine after the screening of your film?
I think I don't ask for direct help for Ukraine. I mean the material help. I mean, I don't mean financial help. The the best way to help Ukraine will be to establish a, a tribunal of war crimes. So we have an example of tribunal for war crimes in former Yugoslavia, but we still don't have a tribunal over Russian war crimes. And I always repeat the message that unpunished evil always comes back twice as strong. And this message historically proven many times since World War II. If you don't punish the evil, if you don't punish the crime, the people who commit these crimes, they will come back one way or another. This is what happened to Ukraine. This is what happened to Ukraine. So we still have the neighbor who wants to kill us in industrial scales, in gigantic scales. So we have mass graves. We still have mass graves uncovered in Ukraine, and this is unbelievable. Regarding that, we live in Europe, which witnessed the war crimes of Nazi Germany, and now Europe witnesses the same scale of crimes committed by Russian forces.
Andriy, how is different covering war in Ukraine and covering war in other countries where you've been for many years?
I'd like to give you one example. Jin, I covered more than 20 conflicts over the world, and I have to confess, so even the toughest, the most difficult day in Iraq or Afghanistan or Africa could not be compared to the calmest day of Ukrainian war, especially in the front line. It's a devastating war. It's a shocking situation for Ukrainians. People here die in really industrial scale. So we are talking about hundreds of people dying every day here in Ukraine. And it's difficult to imagine, but this is a reality we live in. So I experienced many situations when I filmed the war crimes, shooting prisoners, in fact, taking hostages, what else? Cross-firing in the front line between different sides of a particular war, but not like this. Not like this. The problem is we have a neighbor who wants us to be dead at all. The neighbor who wants to disassemble Ukrainian state, and he wants to destroy Ukrainian identity. He wants Ukrainian identity to be disappeared, and he doesn't want to stop. I know they have their documents that claim that Ukrainians should be re-educated to Russians. That's true. That was published in Russian press, especially in RIA Novosti in 2022. But I want to give you one quote from the so-called article written by Timofey Sergeytsev, and he is a Kremlin. He's one of the Kremlin leaders of opinion, and he says that. Let me remember. It sounds like Ukrainians should be re-educated, but there is elite that could not be re-educated in Ukraine, means journalists, political leaders, military leaders, and they should be eliminated for sure. This is really fascist regime. This is really fascist policy, and this is really fascist methods they use against Ukrainians. So, which means, from the other hand, that the stakes are very high. It goes about whether Ukrainians live or die. will live or die. That's it.
Andriy, as a war reporter yourself, I'm sure you witnessed and when your colleagues were injured and were dying. You've been injured yourself twice. Could you share the details? Last time that was in 2022 when you were injured.
Yeah.
Could you share the details?
I hope it was last time. In 2022, I was injured, and my cameraman saved my life, yelling that everybody lay down because Russians start shelling from the multiple rocket launcher systems. We were in the village near Chernigiv. Chernigiv was almost surrounded by Russian forces, and thanks to him and thanks to God, I'm alive. But it wasn't the first time. The first meeting with Russians costed me 6 broken ribs and a couple of months in the hospital in 2014. And unfortunately, my cameraman was killed in action just a couple of weeks ago. And he was a good man, good friend. He was a brilliant film director and cameraman, but he decided he didn't do enough to protect Ukraine. He didn't do enough to change this world for better, and he decided to join armed forces of Ukraine. And he was killed along with 4 other comrades in the front line. And this is the loss I will never forget. Really, I want to tell you one thing. Our partners underestimate Ukrainian will to revenge. When they say, okay, let's calm down Ukraine, let's give Ukraine, let's, push Ukraine to the certain peace agreement with Russia, let's make Ukraine surrender. In fact, that's what we hear from Trump's administration. I think these people, they underestimate the will of revenge in Ukrainian society. They underestimate Ukrainian mindset, and which means we will never surrender at any cost, because it's matter of being alive. It's matter of being alive.
I'm 100% with you as a Ukrainian, but as a journalist, do you still think the stories covering the coverage of was still worth risking the life? Like, you've been injured twice, so you were quite close to the line.
I think that, how to explain? I think I'm in much more better position, and even in a privileged position as compared to regular military. We come and go. We go to the front line. We work quickly. We move quickly. We don't stay at the same position for a long time, and we retreat quickly. And I have an opportunity to come back home and then to go to the front line. And I always say that we suffer much more less than regular forces. We have to remember that. So this is one part of my answer. The other part, another part is we have to resist. We have to give as much as possible to Ukrainian military to protect us. We have to secure our informational field. Because Russia, you know, Russians, they conduct informational warfare against Ukrainians, and this is obvious. And Ukrainians are motivated to resist. I think so, and that's my job, and I have to do it in the best way. I think, and by the way, I love my job. This is a dream job. You know, being in the middle of the story, this is a dream job for many people. So we risk our lives, that's true, but we are happy to do this particular job.
Interesting. I had sort of like mild touch with war reporters when I was part of the crew of the ITV in Ukraine. I have to say, I've never been assigned to anything to do in the trenches. My tasks were always in Kiev, so it was kind of, safe, semi-safe environment. But what I noticed, I was looking and I realized the war reporters, they are sort of like different type of people. In my view, it's probably people who are addicted to adrenaline. And I find sort of like when I see them back to the newsroom, they seems like restless and bored rather than,
Jenny, I want to add that admit that I'm not addicted to any. I'm not adrenaline addicted, really. I'm a very peaceful person. In my private life, I love my family. I love traveling with my family. I'm very ordinary person. Behind the scenes, and that's it. And that's like many war correspondents do. So we're not talking about the being addicted, adrenaline addicted, as you told. So the point is, what's the essence of the journalism as a profession? If there is no conflict, there is no journalism, there is no story. We always investigate conflicts one way or another. Even people who write about fashion shows, they also look for a certain conflict inside the field of interest of their interest. The same to the war journalist is essence of the journalism itself. And first of all, journalists, they are people who want to be in the middle of the story. First of all, sometimes they want to be participants of this story. And secondly, and that's what we do, we want to change this world for better. This is the main goal of our job. And we want, if we go for filming the warfare, we want to stop the war. We don't want this war to continue. We want to stop this war, as well as we want to stop the war in Ukraine.
Reflecting on your experience coverage conflicts in different countries, do you have kind of your list of the aggressors or bad guys whom you would like to interview? And who is that? And what would you ask?
Personally, there is a list, of course, but I don't want to mention this list because I strictly stick to the rule that I should not interview terrorists. I should not do so. So I should not give the space and the place to terrorists who kill Ukrainians, a place to express their thoughts. I don't want their thoughts to be heard. That's it. This is the main thing. But of course, I, as a person, as a journalist, I have my own list, but I don't want to mention this list.
How do you think the viewers of this podcast, people who are going to watch your interview, how they can support Ukraine? What kind of thing is needed right now?
Look, if you support Ukraine, you should support yourself. The problem is the people in the West, they don't think they live in the situation, in the pre-war situation. The Putin, is not focused only on Ukraine. If he won't be stopping Ukraine, he will go further. People should realize it. And if we Ukrainians live in a war situation, people in Europe, in other countries, should admit that they live in a pre-war situation. In that case, they should help Ukraine in many ways, supporting informationally, supporting industrially. Europe should become not just a trusty shoulder of a friend to Ukrainians, but also a kind of industrial rear for Ukraine. Because we fight not only for ourselves, we fight for all the democratic system. We fight for all the existing world order. That's why people should understand and should realize and should admit to themselves that they do not support just Ukraine, they support themselves. That's it. That's my message.
Andriy, last question I ask everyone: why do you love Ukraine?
I want to tell you that Ukraine is the best country in this world, really. And Ukrainians are wonderful people who want peace, but they want to survive and help Ukraine, help Ukrainians be resilient, be strong, and be united, because we fight for common values. That's it.
Thank you, Andriy. Stay safe and have a good flight. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
That was Andriy Tsaplienko, the legend of Ukrainian war reporting, and I hope it was interesting for you, and I hope we will see him more on my podcast. Let me know what you think about our conversation. I will post link to his documentary in the description, and if you want to help this podcast, please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and let's discuss this interview on Monday, after this interview is published, 7:30 p.m. UK time. Thank you for watching. I'm Jenny Klochko. Take care.